Welcome to Enough, the podcast. This is episode number 6. I can't believe we're at 6 already. I'm Nicole Hawkinson.
I'm Dee Dee Simmons.
And today we're just bringing up topics that women need to talk about. We started this podcast because we believe that we are all created to be enough in this world, and we'd had enough of what the world is trying to tell us. So each week, we're just going to talk about some topics that maybe women need to be talking about a little more. Dee Dee's going to start us off because every week we start off with 3 questions, and I don't know what the questions are going to be. So,
very good. So I have 3 questions for you. And the other thing about this podcast is everything is unscripted, so that it's just real conversations between the two of us that we typically have on our runs or when we're hanging out together. So
yes,
she has no idea what 3 questions I'm going to ask, and I don't know what topic she's going to throw at me to talk about. So the first question is super easy.
Okay.
It's October. Yay. Love fall.
I do too.
So what is something you're really looking forward to this fall season?
Well, there's 2 things that come to mind immediately. The first one is the humidity in South Carolina during the summer is thick. Mm-hmm. So the fact that we're going to start running in some crisp early morning air, I just feel like I'm going to become a better runner. All of a sudden, like it takes me to the next level just by changing the weather. So that's my first one, is exercising outside in the fall is glorious.
And we have a race coming up.
And we do.
So we'll be running a lot.
We are. We're training. So, and then the other thing that I love about the fall is once the nights start getting cold and having the fireplace roaring. I mean, I absolutely, it is still, the smell of burning wood takes me back to my childhood every single time. And I've become really good at stoking a fire myself. So my husband doesn't even need to be home. And I said to the kids the other day, do you realize that if we continue to homeschool, we're going to be able to have a fire all day from start to finish of the day? And that just makes me so excited.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
A fire is another one. Okay, I'm going to say a third one too.
Good.
Blue jeans, just slipping into blue jeans. There's something really happy about that too. So I'm really looking forward to the weather change. I love summer, but I love when the weather starts changing and things head into fall.
So the next one might take a little more thought. What would you consider to be one of your greatest accomplishments?
I'm going to say my marriage. Because, we have been married 21 years, and I know that there's lots of people married lots of years. So, and I think we all should consider an accomplishment, because when you bring in 2 people with 2 different roadmaps of life on how to deal with money, how to deal with family situations, how to deal with each other. We have job changes over the years. We have people that come into our life, people that leave, friends change, but our spouses, the goal is to keep that going. And it's not always amazing, but you keep going. And sometimes it's amazing and it's wonderful, but pushing through all of it with that one person, I feel like that is an accomplishment. And I have no doubt that in the end, I know that we'll probably continue to have, valleys, hills and valleys through our years together, but I feel like there's going to be a reward at the end, and I always want to tell every young couple when they get married, because you know how you're so, it's so fairy tale-ish in the beginning, most of the time, especially you start with the down one knee, you've got the rock on your finger, you're planning a wedding, everything's exciting. You get married, and then you have new things. Like, even if you're adjusting, still you have that, maybe you have a first new baby. You have a new house. You have a new job. And there's some adrenaline that pumps with that. Just the excitement of it all. So then, when you're in 21 years, you've had the same 4 kids for a long time,
Yeah.
it's not always so exciting, but the accomplishment is stop having expectations of things always being like a fairy tale and just loving that person unconditionally. And that's hard to do sometimes, but when you push through, like, it's definitely an accomplishment.
That's so sweet.
Aww, Ben's gonna be so happy.
Yes. Okay, last question. What is a goal that you have for yourself between now and the end of the year?
Oh my goodness. Okay, you're throwing a couple hard ones at me. Goal for myself between now and end of the year. I let my athletic ability, I took some time to rest more this summer than usual. I've had plantar fasciitis for a year and 6 months now almost. And so I'm trying to care for my foot the best I can. And side note, it didn't matter that I took time off. I still have plantar fasciitis. So you know what I mean? But I was trying to be obedient because I don't like not doing things as much. But what I tried to do is, instead of, I like to exercise. It's a really good stress management for me. It's great girlfriend time. So I would always before try to exercise 5 to 6 days a week. That was regularly. And now I'm down to sometimes 2 to 3 days a week. So I felt like I was being obedient, and now I have moved past that. So I'm ready to test my body again. That sounds really weird. Like, I know that I can be stronger. I can be faster. My endurance can be better. So I have goals as far as that goes. Other than that, everything, the ball is rolling right now. And I don't know that I have additional goals other than staying on track. I don't want to fall off track. For myself, I can either, if I fall off track, I will be way off track. Like, tuck the project away because it's not getting worked on at all. And this year, like, I like how things are rolling, and I want to stay on track.
Very good. Those were your 3 questions.
That was my 3 question. Okay,
Yep.
So for our topic today, our last podcast, I asked you during one of the questions, what is something you can do for your marriage to make it better? Mm-hmm. And you had an amazing answer. So it made me, I kind of pondered on that for myself. So what is it that I could do? And it actually took me back to a book that I have read a long time ago, and I know that we have discussed before, but I think it's a topic that is a great topic for us to keep discussing. And that's the book, it's by Gary Chapman, called The 5 Love Languages.
Oh, yes. I love that book. They have one for kids, too.
Yes, they have one. So I actually today went on to the website, the 5 Love Languages website, just to take the quiz again. I've taken it before, but I wanted to see, have my love languages changed? But on that website, it also had a quiz for your children, your teens, which I love that was separate. So I didn't do that today, but I will be going back and hitting on that again. And there was one more. There were several different quizzes you could take, but I took mine again. The answers have not changed.
Interesting.
But I wanted to just generally talk about this because I think that this is one miss that we have in marriage. Speaking of marriage earlier, is that we don't always acknowledge our spouse's love languages. We tend to serve our own naturally, and that isn't always a good match. So do you remember what the love languages are, like, as far as naming them off?
Yeah. I mean, it's been a while, but you just took the quiz. So you want to tell us what they are?
Yep. So we have personal touch is one of them.
Quality
time. Terms of endearment. Acts of service.
And gifts.
When I say terms of endearment is, like acknowledgement, right?
Yeah, it's words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation, yes. And gifts.
Yes.
So, I know we've talked about this before, but I'm going to ask the question, what is your love language? This is my favorite answer, too.
All of them.
All of the love languages.
Okay, I am not. So, there's something weird about me that when I take a test like that, I usually don't have one outstanding answer. Even the spiritual gifts test, I have a lot of slightly above average numbers for most all of them. There are like 2 that are 0, and most all of them are about average, and none of them are
Nothing
extremely
stands
high.
out.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I would take a test in high school, where they say, this is the test you need to take to determine what you need to do for the rest of your life. They were so over the board. No, they were never consistent. And so all of them are mine. But I've taken that test a couple of times because I've actually led classes on that book twice. And so both times they all come back to about all of them, which I used to say that made me high maintenance. But truly, I'm pretty easy.
Adaptable. Like,
if you do one kind thing for me, great. I'm so excited,
Here's the list. Pick from any of them.
From any of them, yes.
Actually, that does make you,
yeah.
That's a positive. That's so funny. Okay, I got to stop there. And
okay.
Because when I heard you say all of them before, I didn't think to myself, oh, my friend is super high maintenance. But I was like, wow, like that's a lot of work. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it's what I was thinking.
Right.
So I took that thought process with it. When you're saying you can do any of these things and I feel like I'm being loved on, so that actually makes you easier.
Yeah.
And in your mind, I made you more difficult. I'm so sorry.
My husband made me more difficult too. And he was like, you are so high maintenance. And I was like, really? Like, pick one. Do it. I like it. I appreciate it, So, yeah. But it is. And none of them are higher than the other. Or none of them stand out above all the other ones. Gifts was probably, of the 5, the lowest one. If I want something, I'll buy it myself.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So what I find it so interesting is if we don't acknowledge or figure out what our spouse's love language is, and we can even do this with friendships. This is a general meter of what fills our tank. So
That's right.
That could be from a girlfriend, that could be from a parent, that could be from your child, or just in general. So I never understood the gifts one until I had one particular friend who her love language was gifts. And in my mind, I was like, gifts is so low on mine. Like, I almost, most of the time, hate when somebody gives me a gift because I don't even know what to do with it. Like, do you just, you did bring me a margarita one time, and that felt like that was like pretty awesome. But we can hit another episode on that one. But in general, but then I had a friend who gifts just filled her heart because what it was saying is this person was thinking about me.
Yes.
So because
it doesn't have to be expensive.
No, it could be
a candy bar at the grocery store,
a magazine that you saw that an article they would like. So when you first think of somebody and think gifts, you think, well, that person's spoiled or materialistic. But really, what it came down to is she just, when somebody thought of her and brought a little Cersei, that's a Southern word for any Midwesterners that are listening to us, Cersei to her, then that just made her feel so loved. So, okay, that finally put that one to I was able to associate it and see that it has nothing to do with materialistic thought process at all. But what I also found is that when I would talk to friends who had a very different love language than their spouse, and actually we talked about resentment in our last episode too. Yes. This could play into here. So I had this friend that had a love language of acts of service, and her spouse's love language was words of affirmation. But she was not going to give words of affirmation because he wasn't doing any acts of service, and he wasn't going to do acts of service for her because she never gave him any words of affirmation. So there was this ugly circle that was going on, that the expectation from both of them is, if you're not going to say nice things to me and like thank me for what I'm doing. And the other person was like, you're not doing anything.
Right.
And so what I was seeing with this was this cycle of and resentment built because of it. Because they weren't acknowledging what the other love language is and willing to step forward and try to love their spouse accordingly to that. So
yeah, and I think that's where so much frustration comes in too with us, right? Because you think, so the person who was doing the acts of service was probably like, look at all the stuff I'm doing for this person, and they won't do anything for me.
yes.
And you feel unappreciated. And like you said, it builds up resentment. And nobody intends to hurt the other person starting out. Nobody does. Like, you're doing an act of service for somebody because you love them. Or you're saying something kind for them because you love them. But when you aren't getting it in return, then you are not feeling loved. And your love languages can change over time. Because if you are really, I was going to say neglected, that feels like a harsh word, but if your spouse isn't pouring into you in a way that it's resonating with you, okay, you have little kids and you don't have date nights and you don't have any quality time together. Well, that may not have been your number one for a long time, but because you haven't had quality time together for so long, then quality time becomes one of the top on your list, you know. So those can change over time as well.
I feel like my husband kind of did a little bait and switch on me as far as, because we both, so my love language is quality time.
Mm-hmm.
It always has been. And if I can just hang out with you, I mean, date nights have always been really important to me, because if Ben and I are not connecting, all we need to do is go to dinner together. I mean, that really, it pretty much, through our whole 21 years, it's fixed everything. Because I just need to be you and me for a little while. Let's talk. Let's hang out together. Because that is, all of a sudden, my tank is full again. So it doesn't matter what comes our way. That matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
So his used to be quality time, which was awesome, because all we needed to do was get away together. That was just, and it filled up both of us.
Mm-hmm.
But his have kind of changed. Words of affirmation have become a little more desired over the years with him, and physical touch, I think, is maybe higher, and that is like my 0. So there we go. Like, all of a sudden, there's a conflict. And I'll tell you, I've been like, wait a minute. No, quality time. That's what you need. That's what you used to need. So the reason this topic even comes up is because when I was thinking of what is something that you can do for your spouse, the answer that came in my head was, I need to start really thinking about his love languages, because I don't know. Life has been super busy through this time where everybody's home all the time.
Mm-hmm.
His and my time together, unless we make it intentional to get away, which we have tried to do, but that has been, it's been a little challenging just in general. Like, we just have people around with us all the time. Even in the evenings, we have kids like crawling in our bed to watch TV, and I'll be like, what are you doing? Like, this wasn't a normal last year school year, but quarantine kind of just changed up our routine.
Yeah.
So when I asked that question to you, what I was thinking to me is, am I really filling Ben's tank right now? Or am I just doing the things that I think fill my tank, hoping it fills his tank?
Yeah.
Which doesn't really acknowledge my spouse's love languages at all.
Well, one of Ken's love language is quality time. And so we just had our 20th anniversary in May. And I was thinking, what could I get him that would be a great gift? We were supposed to go on a trip, and obviously it got canceled. But I thought, date nights. So every month I plan a different date night for us. And that's been really fun. Now, I will tell you, his idea of the best date night ever is going to a movie and not going to dinner and having popcorn and Coke. I don't even want popcorn and Coke at the movie, and it's going to be an action movie. Like that is his best date night. It could be with Ben, actually. Like his best date night could be with a dude, and he would love it. But that didn't make sense. But
I got you. Getting out, getting away with someone else just to hang. It doesn't.
Yeah. That's what he likes to do. Mm-hmm. But because the movie theaters are closed, it's been really fun because I get to plan all these fun things that he wouldn't normally say, yeah, let's go do that. But what it does is it gives us time to talk exactly what you're talking about. And we've talked about this before. I could go sit at dinner for 3 hours and just talk all night. And then go somewhere else and have dessert and talk all night. You know, just having that conversation. And so that's been fun that I have intentionally done to pour into one of his love languages that I know is quality time. But one huge misconception, every single guy, when they start to take the quiz, they think physical touch is their love language. And it's not sex. It is non-sexual physical touch is what they're talking about. And that is a huge difference. And so if your spouse's love language is physical touch, and this is more for guys, then non-sexual physical touch is so important to fill that tank. And if the only touch you're getting is in a sexual way, it actually drains the tank because you're wanting somebody to hold your hand. You're wanting somebody to just rub your back or give you a hug.
Snuggle on the couch. Or come up behind you and just give you a hug or kiss your head.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a conversation, too, that you have to have with your spouse. If you take the quiz and touch is one of yours, then physical touch is one of yours, to let them know it's not sexual physical touch that really fills your tank.
So I have another friend who her love language, physical touch, is the top of hers. So I'm just adding to this non-sexual physical touch because I think as women we're thinking, oh gosh, like he's going to find out it's physical touch and then, you know, what does that mean for every single night of my life or whatever. But I have a friend, another close friend who her love language is physical touch. And what I've learned about that, I've tried to figure out my love languages of my friends so I can love on them well too, is I read somewhere that for somebody who their tank is filled by physical touch, that when you hug them, you let them let go first. So one of my besties, her love language is physical touch. And I had not seen her. She moved away. And I had not seen her in a really long time. And so I went to see her, and she wrapped up and she hugged me. And she kept hugging me and hugging me and hugging me. And it was a really, really long time. And I said to her, you know that I'm going to hold on as long as I told her. She knows this. She knows that I've learned about her to let her let go first. I was like, but I just have to acknowledge this has been a really long time, you know.
And she does give the best hugs.
The best.
And she usually will not let go first.
No, because it just fills her tank. And so I'm going to move this into our children.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because knowing our children's love language is just as important as knowing our spouse. I have one child that physical touch is way off the board. Like, even when I hug her, it's like she feels awkward. But I know her other love languages, and I'm able to feed that. But each one of our children are different, which is crazy because I think to myself, you know, people may associate it with, well, I nursed them as a baby, so therefore, or I read to them, so therefore, like we have all these things. But it's really, it comes down to just how they're wired, and every child can be different. So I think what I was also so interested in is the fact that they had a separate quiz for teens, because you say it changes. So I have 3 teenagers now.
Yeah.
I haven't really addressed this topic in years and years. I don't think any of them were teenagers last time I did the quiz on what their love language was. So it needs to be something that I readdress.
And physical touch is one that really changes as kids get older. Like their desire for that physical touch even looks differently. But speaking about the one for kids, so years ago I did that quiz for kids, and it was an aha moment for me for our middle daughter. When she would sit down at a restaurant, she would be right on top of you if you were in a booth, like to where you were like, get off of me.
Right.
And if she ever sat down beside you anywhere on the couch, like she was right underneath you. And I was reading, I've got it right there. I see it. But I was reading that book, and it was talking about your kids' love languages. And if you tell a child that has the physical touch as a love language, and you say, get off of me, well then not only does that not fill their tank, it hurts them because they're feeling rejected. And so learning your child's love language, it's just like your kid comes up and says, hey, would you play a game with me? And you say, I can't play a game right now, I'm too busy. Well, they feel rejected and unwanted if their love language is quality time. That's their way of having quality time with you. Or if they write you a note, you get those little notes, and then you look at it and you're like, that's so sweet. And Ken makes fun of me because I save all those little notes and stuff. But one of the things they said was if you throw that away, then you're rejecting the only way that they, or not the only way, but the way that they most naturally express their love for you.
Oh my gosh, Dee Dee, I've been crushing my children over these years. I'm going through and thinking of all the times.
Seriously.
Because
or you get the little macaroni necklace in preschool, or the funky hat they've made and they want you to wear it, and you say, well, it doesn't match. I'll wear it in the house, but I'm not going to wear it anywhere. Like, that was a gift they gave you. And so it was enlightening. That book really was an aha moment for me. And I am grateful that I got it when they were so little. Mm-hmm. And I would try to tell Ken, because he would get so hot and sweaty if somebody was right next to him. And I said, you can't push her away because she feels rejected. McKenna's were different. McKenna's were quality time and words of encouragement. So if you wrote her a note, she loved it. But if you said something harsh to her, then that crushed her, Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to correct your children. But if you say something that's hurtful.
So, and it may affect her differently than it would affect somebody that words of encouragement wasn't their love language.
Right.
So, this is great that we're making this association, because the hurt that can come when there's no intention. If I say, get off me, you're crushing my leg, it's falling asleep.
Right.
Like, in my mind, that's just making appropriate space for each other.
Right.
So if we're doing that, so we can take it both ways. When we're doing that with our spouse, or we're doing that with our kids, because we haven't acknowledged what they're longing for. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean they have to sit on your leg and cut off your circulation, but you could say, hey, let's get you moved. So this doesn't, I want you to stay near me, but let's get you moved. That would be the way to handle it with somebody who physical touch fills their tank.
Yes.
And
oh being in tune with that, and it changes the relationship with that person. Because it's easier with your spouse, because you can see, maybe you make a comment and it hurts them, but instead of saying, that really hurt me, they get angry. You're like, what did I do? All I said was, yeah, but if words of affirmation is their love language, which is one of Ken's, words of affirmation, is one of your love languages, then words that you perceive as critical are you being rejected again. So it makes you very aware of what you say and how you say it, how you present it.
So the quizzes are free. You can go on, you can take the quizzes. You got to also access the resources. And Dee Dee had the resources right here. So this is the 5 Love Languages book in general, how to express heartfelt communication with your mate. And then the 5 love languages of children.
They also have the quiz in the books as well.
So the one thing I was thinking though is when we're talking about being able to understand what makes our loved one tick, understanding how we can contribute and love on other people well.
But okay, so I know that words of affirmation are not your love language. You're not your top.
Right.
And if I start to tell you something like how much I appreciate what you've poured into my life or what you've done for me or something like that, if I go too long with that, you've said this to me before, you're like, okay, that's sweet, but can you stop? Because I know that makes you feel uncomfortable to hear that. Yeah. I remember on a run one time, and I said, well, then I'll just write you a letter. And you're like, okay. You might want to
learning what feeds people, what fills their tank, is learning how to love them well. And then you become more of a conscious thinker and doer when you're able to learn how to love people well. And then you can start seeing it in other people. Don't you think? Like coworkers, people that you do community service with. I mean, there may be somebody, for example, that wants to tell you all the things they did. Well, I went ahead and I took care of all those boxes over there. I got them all ready for you, so you don't have to do anything. They're all ready for the postage, and I just wanted you to know that I took care of the boxes. What they want is acknowledgement, words of affirmation. Great job. Like, thanks for taking care of the boxes. Now, sometimes for us that words of affirmation is not our natural love language, we'll be like, thanks, I'll let somebody else know. You're not actually acknowledging what they're doing. But when you start recognizing that we do have love languages, everybody has love languages, and if we're able to figure out what people's love languages are, it makes it easier to serve people. Yeah. So that we're loving on them well, and also we're not getting caught up in our own thoughts of, why do you want me to pat you on the back because you packed those boxes? Instead, you'd be in gratitude about it. You would acknowledge the fact that they did it and what a great job they did. Their tank would be filled, and you have and there's no conflict.
And if they are telling you all the stuff they've done, it's very likely that acts of service is one of their love languages. So if you can even test it out. Do a little kind act for them and see how they respond, and then that's their love language, because we speak our native language, right? We speak our native love language, unless you're like me, and then I guess I'm just multilingual.
All the languages, which is amazing, and I totally look at that different because of our conversation today.
Yeah.
So, what a great topic. I mean, I really feel like for us to be able to acknowledge their love languages and be able to love on them well, like, we're just showing up better for people.
I'm so glad you brought these up. I would say one of the words of my life is intentional. I try to be intentional with what I do and what I go after and how I do it. And these books have helped me so much in being effectively intentional with how I pour into my family, my husband, my children, because it really showed me the importance of doing and saying the things that they needed in a way that they needed it done and heard, just to feel loved and to feel accepted. And I'm so grateful for these. So this is a great resource. If you've never done it, I would definitely say to get this, because it's life-changing. It's life-giving when you live according to this. It's life-giving.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us today. If you want to learn more about our coaching businesses or want to connect with us on social media or watch more of our podcasts, then go to liveyourdesign.life.